Hey guys, Nubkeks here, and welcome to Heroes of the Storm discussion topic, which I think may be a little bit controversial. I'm curious to see what you think, and what you think after the specific argument I present in this video. So what we're talking about is whether you should pick support heroes if you're trying to carry in Hero League, okay? It's a very specific thing. I'm not talking about support heroes just in general, but if you are, going into a Hero League game and you think that your rank should be higher than it is, should you be picking a support hero, or should you be doing what you can to try to get onto a damage dealer or a tank? And the reason I'm kind of thinking about this topic was just looking over my own match history. I'm working on a series of videos for you guys at the moment. We're going to look at the best heroes for each role. We're going to look at how to draft. We're going to look at how to draft badly. We're going to look at general gameplay tips. I basically want to bring out a series of guides on how to succeed at Hero League. And this is one of the things I noticed while I was looking at all the data that I have from the 30 games that I've played here so far, was that if we look at the games that I lost, we lost 8 games out of 30. We won 22, but we lost 1 on Li Ming, 1 on Zul, 1 on Tyrande, 1 on Johanna, Lili, Rhaegar, Thrall, and Karazim. If we look at the roles for these, 2. We lost 2 on Assassins, Thrall and Li Ming. We lost 1 on a Specialist, Zul. We lost 1, 2, 3, 4 games on support heroes. So out of the 8 games we lost 4 games on support. Okay, part of this could be that I'm bad at support. That is possible. Like, don't get me wrong. Well, support is my best sub role, but healer is one of my worst. I actually have a negative win on healer overall. If you're curious what these are, we're going to be looking at this screen an awful lot in today's video. But support is Tyrande and Tassadar. Healer is all the other support heroes. If we look at the roles more generally, we can see in terms of warrior, I've got almost a 60% win rate, assassin 54, same with specialist. My support is a little bit lower than that at 52. So definitely we could say, well, part of this may be for sure that support happens to be the hero grouping that I'm worst at. Also, that I've got fairly few games on. That is legitimate. Don't get me wrong. Also, one thing I don't want to argue in this video is that or that we don't need to argue, it's whether, the support role in general has, less skill involved in it than, say, assassins or specialists or warriors, or how they compare together. In my opinion, I do think that assassin is probably the most complex role in the sense that, a bad player on assassins will be worse than a bad player on tanks on warriors would be, or worse than the bad player on support heroes would be. I think that a better player can maybe do a little bit more on assassins. Now, that's my personal bias, potentially. I don't know. But I just want to throw it out there. But that's not what I'm going to argue in this video. Instead, what I want to argue, specifically in terms of Hero League, is going to be in terms of drafting. All right? So a huge part of how to draft successfully is in picking heroes that fit in with your team composition and fitting heroes that counter what the enemy is trying to do with their team composition. So what I want to do here is compare how you can draft well when you're picking a support hero versus how you can draft well when you want to pick a damage hero. Again, in a standard draft, you're going to be, roughly speaking, every draft will have at least 1 warrior, at least 1 support hero, and then, maybe 3 damage dealers. Sometimes you have 2 warriors, sometimes you have 2 supports. Let's say like the most common draft that I saw within Hero League was 1 warrior, 1 support, and 3 damage dealers. Some of these bruisers can be damage dealers sometimes as well, but that doesn't matter too much. You're familiar with kind of a regular draft. But the point is, when we look at how to pick something that fits with your team and how to counterpick within the support role, yes, there absolutely are things that you can do. For example, if you've got an Illidan on your team, Tassadar's a great one to pick up. If they've got a lot of auto attack heroes in the enemy team, Lili's really good. If they've got lots of dive heroes, Lieutenant Morales won't be good. But if they don't have dive heroes, he's going to be amazing. If they've got burst damage, Uther or Rhaegar might be the things to go for. If they've got mostly sustained damage or poke, maybe Malfurion or Lili will be the things to go for. Stuff like that. So there's definitely stuff you can pick within support role, don't get me wrong. However, the point I want to make is that your ability to pick what fits with your team and what counters the enemy team within the support role, while yes, there are, picks and counter picks there, the ones that you can make within the damage dealing classes are far, far wider. That, yes, there's a difference between a Lili pick and an Uther pick, sure. However, that's nowhere near as big as the difference that you're going to make to your team comparing, say, a Kerrigan pick to a Li Ming pick, to an Illidan pick, to a Tracer pick, a Thrall pick, to a Sylvanas, to a Murky, to an Abathur. The difference that you can make within the damage dealing roles is absolutely huge. Stuff like, having burst damage versus sustained damage, how good your wave clear is going to be, how good your ganks are going to be, whether you're melee, whether you're ranged, how squishy you are. Say, for example, we might say, all right, well, we want some good wave clear and good burst. We're going to go for Kael'thas. All right. Actually, well, we want some single target burst. We're going to go for a Greymane. Our front line is a little bit squishy. We can pick maybe a Thrall so that, we've got a bit more of a little bit of a tankier front line right there. They've got a lot of tanks. Hey, we'll pick up Tyke. It's going to be a really good tank killer. Ooh, we actually need some good wave clear. You know what? We'll pick up Zool for some really good wave clear. It's maybe Towers of Doom. We're going to pick up Murky because he can keep respawning and put a lot of pressure on those altars. Stuff like that. I think that when you look at the damage dealers, there's just so many more heroes. There's so many more options that you can pick really well to fit in with what the team is doing, what your team needs and what is going to work well against the enemy team. I think that's a much broader thing you can do. If you're good at drafting, if you can play a lot of variety of heroes, if you're good at lots of these different heroes, you can do far more, you can draft far better if you go for a damage dealer than if you go for support, and even if you go for warrior. I do think there's maybe a little bit, obviously there's more warrior heroes than there are support heroes, so you can do a bit more there, but generally I would say you want to be looking at one of those damage slots, because it's possible that your teammates might pick something really, really bad. The enemy team has got a Lily and I don't know, like a Sonya and a Muradin and let's say a Jaina and a Kael'thas, and then your teammate picks up Illidan or something like that, and you just go, oh my god, he's going to be blinded, he's going to be stunned, he's going to be burst down with his ability damage, he's going to be like stunned by the Kael'thas, he's going to be slowed by the Jaina, he's just going to die. Illidan's not going to do anything. They might do something like that. Whereas it's harder to go wrong, I feel, with the support heroes because there's so few. I think what Blizzard has had to do a little bit is to kind of homogenize them a little bit to make a lot of these supports viable as a solo support. Because, solo support is kind of the baseline meta. It's the most common thing. They've had to make all of these heroes be kind of viable to do at least a decent job, regardless of team comps, to a certain extent. Whereas they don't do that as much with the damage dealers. So, for example, if we look at our match history, I thought this Battlefield of Eternity was a really interesting one. Again, really high MMR, but if you want to look at that draft, that was the 18th game. It's the 19th game, Battlefield of Eternity. We played Tyrande. You'll see here in the thumbnail. But one thing that was really interesting about this was that, we picked up a Li Ming first, we first picked Kael'thas. Then this guy, our Abathur, was hovering a Rexar. We thought we'd have a Rexar. He ended up picking Abathur. So our 3 damage dealers, we had a Muradin and Tyrande. Really good combo there, the warrior and the support. I picked the support. But our damage dealers, look what they did. They picked Kael'thas, Li Ming, and Abathur. They picked this into an Artanis. Artanis gets Phase Bulwark at level 13, Then the enemy team went, great, cool. They picked a Chen, who's got Grounding Brew. So 2 heroes that are really difficult for ability damage heroes, these burst damaged heroes to deal with, because they're so good at absorbing burst damage. And all of our damage is ability damage. It's all burst. Like, we don't have something like a Tychus or a Vala, or someone who's going to be able to output a lot of sustained damage. We don't even have much CC. We've got almost no CC. I picked Tyrande for a stun. We got Muradin with stuns. Kael'thas does have one as well. So potentially we could chain stuns together and kill someone. But it's going to be so hard because our damage dealers, Abathur really screwed us over in that game, actually. They kind of picked things that didn't fully fit. If we take a look at, say... Okay, so our team in the Spider Queen game, this was kind of interesting as well. So we picked up Johanna. Again, Johanna is like one of the best tanks on this map because her wave clear is great. Then she can roam around. She can interrupt people channeling to turn in the things really easily. She's a really good pick for this map, one of the top tanks. Our teammates, though, so our Li Ming's a really good pick. But look at our support. He picked up Brightwing, and I'm not sure if Brightwing's a bad pick. I don't know much about Brightwing, but one of the things I noticed when I was looking at the stats, for example, is that this guy, he had almost no takedowns, so he didn't actually participate in many of the team fights. He also had like no XP, so I was really confused as to what this guy was actually doing. He's not, clearing lanes for us and picking up XP, picking up soak. He's also not taking part in the team fights or picking up kills. He's done a lot of healing, sure, he did an awful lot of healing, but I was like, what is he actually doing? What is this guy actually doing? Like, what impact is he having if he's not doing this? But anyway, you know, we picked Brightwing and Falstad, so 2 heroes with global presence on the smallest map in the entire game, which is not great. We picked Raynor, who's got pretty bad wave clear, and he's not very effective. So there you go, that was kind of a bit dodgy. But this map on Dragonshire, perhaps one of the most interesting ones. First pick Zool, not too bad. Actually picked a damage hero this time, really interesting how this one went down. First pick Zool, going, hey, they'll probably pick up Illidan, but that's okay, because Zool's really good against Illidan, right? And indeed, they did pick Illidan. Then what happened was that, actually, our warrior picked Leoric. Probably the worst warrior you could pick against Illidan. I mean, all the others have stuns, right? Yeah, pretty much all the others have stuns. I think, well, Stitches wouldn't be very good against Illidan either, but I mean, anything else would pretty much be way better. So, oh well, he picked that. Not great. Then our damage dealer, another one, picked Lunara. So again, another hero that Illidan is super good at. So that was kind of unfortunate. I do think the Li Ming and the Uther picks were really good, but our warrior and our other damage, like, really did not pick well, considering what the enemy team had set up, and they got kind of blown up, got destroyed because of it. But you know, that was something. Perhaps we even picked a damage dealer, but you know, the damage dealer was out of our control. I think even if he'd picked just a standard meta warrior, we would have done better, but these 2 guys, they picked really badly, and that kind of cost us the game. But anyway, that is why I'm arguing in this video that if you want to carry in Hero League and you are, say from your quick match MMR or whatever it happens to be, that, you know, you're probably a better player overall than the players you're going up against, or your teammates, you know, you're better than your rank. So you're looking for a carry sort of hero. I do recommend, in terms of drafting, staying away, and this is assuming that you are good at drafting, which I think is a massive deal in Hero League. You know, drafting is one of the most important skills you can bring. You know, it's not all about the gameplay. Drafting is a huge deal. You want to stay away from the support role as much as you can, purely because there are so few heroes within it. There's so little opportunities for you to really tailor your pick to the needs of the draft. Whereas within damage dealers, you have an absolutely massive variety. Even within warriors, you've got a decent variety, but you definitely want to stay away from support because your ability to impact the draft is really quite small. Also, at the moment, at the time of recording this video, support heroes very rarely receive bans. In most games, you're going to see like Rhaegar. You're going to see Rhaegar and like Uther, or Rhaegar and Tyrande, or something like that, or Lily. You know, there's not a whole ton of variety because, again, like a lot of these supports can kind of succeed solo. You're going to see a lot more bans directed towards the damage dealers or the warriors. So yeah, that's my advice. If you're trying to carry, I would definitely stick to the damage dealers as much as possible, for the simple reason that when you're drafting, you've got much more opportunity because there's a much wider variety of roles, sub-roles. There's a much wider variety of, you know, melee versus ranged, burst versus, you know, sustained, lane clear versus no lane clear, and so on. Like, there's so much more variety in terms of how you can respond to your opponent's picks within damage dealing roles. So I recommend going for those. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. I've been Nubkeks, and do stay tuned as well for those guides that I'm working on. They're going to be coming up soon. They're going to be a better, higher production quality than this video, more focused, and hopefully, you know, a bit better quality. But I just thought this was something I noticed today while I was like looking at this stuff and working on those guides. Was, hey, you know what? Why did we lose so many games on support? Is it just because I'm bad at support, or is there something more? And, you know, when I was looking at the sub roles, this is something that really struck me, was that, you know, in terms of drafting, you have so much more tools at your choice when you're going for a damage pick as opposed to going for a support pick. That's the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.